When you get that realization dawn that you are now stuck in something that you're never going to get out of. It's like it's like being in a tiny little prison, like in a tanning cubicle, and you're never going to get out of it. Climate change and all these things, there will be, deep down, a lot of us know there's not a lot we can do. It needs to be a collective. You can listen to people's point of view, but don't feel that that is law to you, because remember, it's just a point of view.
And we're in.
Welcome to Triangle Theory, Esther. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Good.
Really, really appreciate for coming. Just to start from the very, very beginning, when I reached out to you, and you told me the story of how you grew up and how you was raised, and my jaw actually dropped. And I just want to go from the very, very beginning on how you grew up. What are your earliest memories just growing up in Jehovah's Witness?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say I'm very excited to be here.
Oh,
thank you so much.
No, yeah, amazing.
Thank you so
And
much.
I've been following your podcast, and there's so much that I think we could talk about.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And break things down. But thank you for giving me this opportunity. So yes, I grew up in London. First 4 years of my life were in Haringey. And I do remember being about 3 years old and going with my parents to meetings, and there was Bible readings and learning about God. And God it wasn't just something that people believe in. It was about having a relationship with God, that everything was tied to that, and that you have to obey God's rules and laws, and that there was a reliance on this belief that if you wasn't in it, then you are in Satan's world, and nobody wants to be in Satan's world.
Sure.
Because you go to that place, kind of thing. And I just want to insert here that they didn't believe in hell.
Okay.
That just means that there will be no resurrection, there'll be no paradise for you. You would not be living in God's new kingdom when it comes on earth.
So if they didn't believe in hell, who was the Satan then? Who was the Satan's world?
You mean what happens after death?
Yeah.
No, as in, so you said that if you don't live in their world, you
Then
live in Satan's world.
Or in the devil's world.
So if there's no hell, who's the Satan? Or is just
Well,
like...
Satan is just like everybody else in many religions. They believe that Satan is the son of the devil. He's an angel that was fallen.
Lucifer.
Or that he challenged God. That is how it has been recorded in time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
obviously-
Lucifer, Satan. There's lots of lots of names.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously going to obviously learning about this doctrine and sort of learning from this from your parents. I imagine, like, as a child, you're so influenced by that because it's terrifying, right? It's like, oh my god, if I don't.
But it's not terrifying if you're a child.
Okay.
I suppose for men, but then I'm speaking for myself here because I do know that there will be others who it did bother their childhood.
Yeah.
Learning these things, it did affect them. Personally, myself, you know, it was, the end of the world's going to come. God's going to kill all the bad people. Yay! So if you're not one of us, you know, you better join the club.
Sure.
There was that, and so there's that urgency that you feel that you're like Jesus, you've got to go around preaching to everybody about it. God's kingdom's going to come soon. Don't do anything bad. You've got to come into this because, you know, you're going to die at the end of the world. You know, when the end of this bad system of things ends.
So in terms of like earliest memories and sort of casting your mind back to that, how often were you sort of learning about it?
It was a way of life.
It was a way of life, yeah.
You know, before you eat, you're going to pray. You're encouraged to talk to God all the time.
Okay.
And Then you would have your My Book of Bible Stories, where you read all the, the stories of the Bible, and there's always like a moral of the story kind of thing.
Sure.
Just so that you can cultivate good values and principles. And just like, well, every religion that professes love, you are going to learn to do good things and what good works are. But you can learn all these things. It's all going to depend always on your parents, who are the influences of what they're like as well.
Yeah.
Whether how strong you're going to be in that base. So for me, my parents are very strong in this. And, if there was ever any concerns, I'll trust in God, trust in Jehovah, trust in God. And, which is great, to have a faith and a belief. It's also means that you then don't trust in yourself so much or give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
Would you say
It's
that
great because you do need to have a faith and a belief, and I believe everybody should have meaningful purpose in their life.
Would you say if you trust in God, that kind of takes away the control of from yourself, like
Yes,
that you're
that's
not
what
in
I mean,
control
that you're
anymore?
not responsible. So things like climate change and all these things, there will be, deep down, a lot of us know there's not a lot we can do. It needs to be a collective, doesn't it? But and also then that culture with the way we were brought up, it was, these are really bad things that are going on in the world. This is Satan's system, but God's going to sort it all out, so that's all right then. So I don't have to, So you're not going to see them on protest for Save the Seals or on a recycling campaign. Although they probably might,
Hey guys, thank you so much for making it this far into the podcast. If you have any feedback, then please let us know, as we always want to make this podcast better. So hearing from you is always a pleasure. Please subscribe to all of our platforms. Get involved at Triangle Theory. If you've got any comments or if you want to share any topics that you think that me and Conrad would like to talk about, then please get involved. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
They care about those things. They might do it in the home, but they're not going to be, there's a movement about it because they're still then relying on what's going to happen, which I can highlight that probably most people do. We all think someone's going to come and wave a magic wand and say we actually do have to make an effort ourselves personally. They feel that everything in the world is temporary anyway, that God's going to come in and sort it all out.
Sure. And in terms of like day to day, I mean, I'm sure maybe some of the listeners will...
Oh, I'll tell you something funny.
Yeah, go on.
I'll tell you something funny.
Yeah, go.
So it's like when I went to school and I was doing RE, like religious education, they were giving us the questions at exams, and I'd be answering it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'd be answering it like the things that I knew.
Yeah.
Because I thought, that's it, I know everything about the Bible.
Sure.
And actually, I probably was right. But they're asking me to answer the curriculum. So when they've gone on about, who parted the Red Sea, I haven't gone on about it's Moses. Well, actually, God did that because blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I got the answer wrong.
So it was...
So I came back with a D. And I thought, well, I should have just answered them the way they wanted, but I don't believe in that because I know it's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
So things like that,
Yeah, it's tough because obviously with like religious studies and religious education in school, you're following a curriculum. It's almost like we get putting things onto a paper that you've recited from information based on the curriculum, but it's not on your own perceptions and understandings of things. Whether it's like you're totally right to put your own understandings down.
Yes,
really,
yeah,
that's almost the right thing to do. But because
I even referenced it.
Yeah, I bet.
Genesis chapter 2 verse 5. There you go.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the answer they were looking for.
Sure.
So you had to give them the answer. And just other little things. But we are going back to a time there was no DEI. There was no diversity and inclusivity. And so we moved from London. We moved to Hertford in Hertfordshire. And I went to a girls' school.
Okay.
My mother thought, that's a really safe place to send your kid to a girls' school, which it was. But then these girls, they had absolutely no idea. And I was a freak. They couldn't understand why one girl out of all of this, the girls out who go to assembly every day, there's one kid who never goes to assembly and she's really weird and she believes in this God and it's going to be the end of the world. And so you do become a little bit of a freak. And also they'd had a general upbringing in a worldly sense. Mm-hmm. They listened to Wham and this kind of thing, music that my parents would have found worldly, and it's sexualized. This is all part of Satan's system, this kind of thing. So then you're looked at as a prude, you're innocent, you really don't know much about, you can read off the Bible to them and quote things, but that you're just a knowledge box, if you like.
Sure.
And you have a different way of life to them. So we are going back to the 80s. I do remember being in an art class. I was about 13. And it was actually the teacher who turned on me. It was a teacher. She was an art teacher at this school, Mrs. Bishop. And she started asking me questions like, oh, why don't you allow abortions? Why don't you do this? And called me disgusting in the class.
Oh, wow.
She was...
That's horrendous.
I love art. I mean, I actually do art for work as well. And that was the worst year of my life, was having to go to that art lesson, because what she did is that she cultivated and she fostered this culture within that classroom that now everybody had turned on me. Well, they'd go, well, why are you like that? And then they'd spread it across the school. And I'd get paint thrown at me and all sorts of things. Now, that is something that is absolutely unacceptable now.
Totally
it's inappropriate
agree.
behaviour. That would not happen, and a teacher would absolutely not do that. And I suppose now with hindsight, and I love it at university because I'm studying psychology and understanding behaviour profiling and all of this, that you can go back and I could see where girls in the class would do that so that they didn't get bullied by other girls because they were a bit different. And, like you see now as you grow older, different things. You can also, when you bring your higher self, how you could have... that teacher could have managed things differently. But like I say, they didn't have DEI in those days. And I imagine that these teachers didn't know how to deal with... When you're dealing with a classroom full of teenage girls, it's hard enough, but then you've got one who's a bit odd. And I suppose to be able to deal with the classroom full of girls was to pick on one, to have somebody over there to pick on, so she wouldn't get the...
That's a really...
Because we had teachers who, when they were weak... they would walk out. The girls would absolutely rip teachers apart and they would walk out the classroom. So that's probably what her behaviour was.
Coping mechanism, yeah.
It's a real shame that it's not sort of fostering a sense of respect and saying this, your views are different and that's okay, but not trying to single it out. Because it's when you're young, it's like, of course you're going to take on the same faith as anyone born into a family that's
what would be really good is if a teacher who does come up with anything like that could say, well, that's really interesting that I heard of this, could you explain to us and how does that affect you, so that we can understand more.
We in our school we had a girl join, and where we were in Oxford, it wasn't a very, there wasn't a lot of diversity in our school. And there was a girl that was Muslim, and during Ramadan, we had like an assembly just to appreciate that, okay, she's not going to be eating lunch and that's okay. It doesn't mean she's a freak. It just means that she's practicing something else that's different to what you might normally see. And it's a shame that wasn't, given you having the same space or the same, especially in school where, it's a naturally quite horrendous place where you get ripped apart anyway, regardless of whether or not you follow a different religion or not. So I can imagine that must have been really tough and not following the norm anyway.
That was quite difficult at school. I do feel for children at school who are having to put up with things like this.
Did you ever feel like, obviously you mentioned that it was like girls that were following like Wham, and like it was just all did you ever feel like, oh, why can't I have that same?
So that was kind of my next question as well. Like, at what age did you start questioning your faith and the lifestyle, and how your parents reacted to that?
I never did. I never did. While I was there, I never questioned it at all. I was in it to win it. I was die hard in it to win it. And because that's all I knew. Also, there was going to be no chance to... There was no... I didn't know what the world was like because I never had a taste of it, really. You know, we used to watch Grease, the movie, and act it all out, do the songs. And it wasn't until like my son was 12, he's 20 now. And he said, Mum, you do realise that this movie is just, it's all about sex. And I thought, oh my God, of course it is. I didn't even know that. Because we would never have looked at it in that way. That's what I mean. You wouldn't, you view, well, I did in my generation, was that all the boys and girls, you felt like brothers and sisters. And so you don't view it as like, oh, a potential sexual partner the way people do now. Like, it, you know, when they're in a group or this is somebody that you're going to marry, they do encourage marriage very early on, because then it stops you becoming a deviant.
What sort of age do they encourage it? So, like, is there like a certain age that you get to that you're like, okay, now's the time to
start thinking about getting married?
Yeah.
So, from a teenager, it would say to you that dating is only if you're going to get married.
Okay.
So you're going to have... Now, people lived not very long years ago.
Sure.
So teenage marriages has been going on for thousands of years because people only lived to 50 or 60. So you had to get in there to sort of keep the civilization going. Do it all, because 50, you're going to kick the bucket.
Yeah, yeah.
If you made it to 60, you're hardcore. You know, but now it's 110. So, you know, 15 or 16 years old looks really young, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so values and standards and things have changed. And yet, although young people know more, they still don't have the responsibilities of trying to survive like somebody who was born 200 years ago. And you got to be in a job by the time you're 12, because you know the family is not going to survive.
Yeah. No, it's like, it's interesting now, as you were saying, like, because life expectancy is obviously a lot more now. Like, but I imagine back then it was like getting married really young. You're going to conceive children very young because you're only going to be living till, you know, you haven't got very long. And like you were saying, you're immediately sort of having to contribute to sort of, I suppose, your family in order to survive. When you're sort of saying like practicing Jehovah and all the rest of it, what would those practices look like?
Okay, so you go to meetings 2 times a week. It was 3, it's now 2.
Okay.
Because they are changing as well as a society, as an organisation. You know, it's as a legal corporation kind of thing. It's only been going on since like the early 1900s. So they're learning as well, that moving with the times, if you like, because things have moved so quickly in the last 10 years. It's what we were doing for thousands of years in the last 10 years is now, you know. So they're having to change things as well. But when I was young, those things looked like they were never going to change. What was the original question again?
What were the practices?
Okay, so you go to the meetings 3 times a week.
Sure.
Then there was a lot of encouragement for personal study. So in my family, that meant homework comes second.
Okay.
First comes God. Doing all your reading and everything, helping your mum in the house. So, you know, because, you know, a husband is going to want someone who can clean a house and cook, doesn't care if someone can read. So homework comes last.
Wow.
And because a job is going to be temporary anyway, because, you know,
you're not going to need it, essentially.
You're not going to need it.
Yeah. And then obviously, so those readings, how was obviously daily, and then
So the readings then come a lot in question and answer form.
Okay.
And so you're studying something, but again, just like any curriculum, you are given the question. You're not there to make the question yourself.
I see. Okay.
You think you've answered a question, but you're only reading the answer to something you're given.
Yeah.
If you like, you need to go out and find the answers on your own.
And
really, essentially,
really
that's
good.
real studies.
Really good point. Yeah.
And so them readings, is it like a standard Bible, or you have like your own version of?
They do have their own version, but you can. It's still just as good as using a King James version. They've just tried to make it in a more palatable language, because not everybody's going to know thee, thy, thou,
Yeah.
them. I think they do get penalised where they may have changed things. But then I think everybody comes down with their translation. You could put commas and question marks here and there. We have to think of like what the actual contexts mean. And if we are really going to be honest with ourselves, then we're going to look at all religions, say they promote love. And who really does that? So, you know, looking at the Bible has an amazing history. A lot of it is factual. There are things in there which you think, oh, is that factual or not? But you've got to remember about people who wrote this, they probably couldn't even read and write properly. A lot of them, well, so we do understand that the people who did read and write, there would have been kings or somebody like that. But they were writing for people who were shepherds. And so then you're probably saying something. It's not so literal because you're trying to explain it to somebody who's out in a field. You know, it's like me explaining what a microwave was to my great grandmother, and you know, like, oh, this is demonic.
Yeah. And sort of preaching Jehovah's to other people, because obviously you're trying to spread.
Oh yeah, loads of stories.
I bet. Yeah. So like what?
And you think, oh, these poor people, they're going to get destroyed at Armageddon.
Yeah.
By preaching back.
Yeah.
It's not always fun. I don't remember really enjoying it, if I'm really honest with you. I did it because I thought I'm making God happy and this is what Jesus was doing. But, you know, like buckets of water coming out of the top window.
Really?
Getting doors smacks in your face. And people could be really nasty.
I bet.
But you did get some really nice people who were open to having a conversation. And I guess they probably found us very pedantic, found me very judgmental, and thinking that I knew everything, because I did think that at the time. So I do look back and think, oh, cringe at certain things that I did. Real cringe. But I think if you don't cringe about things, then you haven't grown. So
Yeah, exactly.
I like to cringe. It's that when you cringe about something you did yesterday, that's quite worrying.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And I can imagine that sort of when you did have those conversations with people that were willing to sit down with you, it was like, oh my God, there's also someone that's willing
Saved
to...
someone's life.
Yeah.
Saved soul, you know. Oh, they're going to be a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah. So you must feel like really good from that. There must be like such a...
I'll tell you what good points are. You know, people who think they can't find a job because they were Jehovah's Witness and they didn't have like an education. They will be really good at helping other people. Find a job where you can support someone else, because you are already a talker, you're a speaker, you know how to put an introduction, middle way, and then do your summary. You know how to do a bit of research. Go and become an educator. If you're good at that, or there will be things that they are good at, but they were suppressed a lot. Now I think they're letting them do things more. Like, we would have been suppressed at doing art and music. My parents would have thought that was a waste of time. See, it's a waste of time. What are you doing that for?
Yeah.
You're going to have it forever to do that. Right now, you've got to go preaching work.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, like things like sports. Well, we could like these things, but we have to put God first.
Sure.
You know, and you know, I kind of understand that there needs to be a balance if you are going to have a belief, but then I believe you need to be balanced and moderate, even if you didn't.
Yeah. And with the preaching work, what I mean, as you're saying, like you're doing all of this work that's voluntary, you're helping others. Like, what are the consequences of when you're preaching that your lifestyle and your, I suppose, your welfare? Like, how does that affect people that are in Jehovah's Witness? How does it affect their lifestyle?
So you will get support within the group, because you've been persecuted, and I do like a bit of persecution. Just like a lot of minority groups, there is going to be that victimization that we're being persecuted, but I do like to point out to them that other religions get persecuted as well. So there's a lot of quantitative data that you can get from the humanists, because obviously they're right on it, aren't they? They want to get rid of religion, so they're right on it. But yeah, lots of information where, you know, other religions are being persecuted by other religions. And, you know, like, let's say, for example, Russia. Putin there, he doesn't want you if you're a Christian or a Muslim, does he? So he's against all of them as well. And, you know, like China, for example. So ultimately, you need to have the choice. And it's about having that choice. If you do believe in, you could believe in something totally. It doesn't matter, as long as you just don't be an arsehole. You can have really nice people who don't believe, as you probably know.
Yeah.
It's when people become so believing that they get nasty about it, you know.
Yeah. So what was then?
We could have been like that. I know that I was probably like that, really judgmental. Well, you know, she's never been married and she's got 3 children. How disgusting is that? Dropping her knickers to one side. But you can become so judgmental at the back of a church nature. You know, like you know that any religion you go to, education, you mingle in a group, there's going to be groups within that group, isn't there? Little cliquey things. It's like being the mum who goes to school to take your kid, and I would sit and I could look at all these little cliques in the playground, and I'd just go and talk to them all. I'd go and say, hi, how are you? And then move on to the next one, hi. Because I thought, I don't belong to any of you, but I'm still going to be nice to everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So what was your transition then, when you decided that this is not right for me?
Good girl gone bad.
Yeah.
Kind of
What did it look like?
So by that time, I'm like your poster child. I am your what people would have said is a really good example. You know, Andrew's daughter. I'm so sorry to my dad that I feel so bad that I've really let you down. And to them, I put them through hell. To them, they feel like, but to me, I feel like they put me through hell. So, you know. Sure. So up to that point, doing everything properly, by the book, but I would walk around like an 18-year-old girl, and if I was on my own, I'd be talking to God in my head, thinking things like, you know, show me the way. I want you to show me everything. Tell me everything I need to know so that I can become a better person. And with hindsight, I think he has shown me now. Thank you. I think you showed me. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. We're good now. I'm humbled. But at the time, that's what I would do. And I'd get like marriage proposals as young as like 16, where somebody would mention something to my mum or dad. Say, oh, so-and-so's interested in Esther. You know, like the old, it's like watching Fiddler on the Roof, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. The old matchmakers and the aunties, you know, they get along. I tell you what, the Jehovah's Witnesses are like, very much like the Muslim culture in when it comes to arranged marriages and how families are together and how they're very tied in, and it's you know, so and so's friend, and you know, and they you're gonna, you know, bring families together and this kind of thing, and you can only marry within your faith. Okay. And because you're young, you don't know a lot. You leave it to your parents to, they obviously. I came from parents that had an arranged marriage, whose parents had an arranged marriage. So I had an arranged marriage. Basically, I met this guy on a Wednesday. We were engaged on a Thursday.
Hey guys, your feedback is very important. And no, this is not an advertisement. Actually, what I'm asking from you is to leave a comment below what you liked and most importantly, what you disliked about this episode, because we can improve on the next episodes and we can make a better content for you to listen. Give us also a topics you'd like to us talking about, and we can prepare, do your research and talk about it on the next episodes. Thank you.
And he wasn't the first. I'd been. Some of the ones that would turn up and. It was just like, no, that's never going to happen. And I'd get such grief from it because they were worried that I'd end up on the shelf. I was like 19.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to end up on the shelf. Nobody's going to want you. And probably nobody did because my family was so hard work. You knew that if you were going to marry Esther, you were going to marry her mum.
Yeah.
And my dad was so strict. People probably thought, oh, well, are we allowed to listen to that music? And so who was going to take me on would be somebody who could manipulate my parents. And so, yeah, it went wrong. I met him on a Wednesday. We were engaged on a Thursday. And as the time was drawing close to get married, you get a gut feeling. Like, I grew up on Doris Day films, yeah? And I thought, I'm not getting these feels. I'm not feeling very Doris Day. I'm not feeling like I'm in the throes of love. I just feel that I'm doing something to make everybody else happy. I don't even like this guy now because I'm starting to see something about it, but I couldn't quite put my hand on it. What it was that I was getting the creeps at, and nobody else, because nobody else is going to marry him. Nobody else is going to know, are they? Those feelings.
Sure.
And then about a week before this wedding, and obviously
Sorry, just to
Yeah,
cut you.
thank
So
you.
you got engaged on Thursday, you said?
No.
Yeah, I got engaged
Yeah.
on a Thursday. I met him on a Wednesday.
Met your mum Wednesday, engaged on Thursday.
Engaged
So
on
when
Thursday.
was the wedding?
6 months later.
6 months later, okay.
Yeah. So within that time, and then one day, I think it was like a week before the wedding, I asked him a question. It was a question about his family. And he basically just lifted the table and it went across the room. And there was a lot of aggression, anger, and I just ran. I literally ran for the hills because I was in a village in the mountains. I was running down these ravines, like either drops on either side of the road, running from this village. And I felt like I was in a horror film, like it was turning into a Hitchcock experience, really.
Yeah.
It was like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. And my dad wasn't there. My mother was there and my sisters. And I called my dad and he was actually in a meeting with the other elders. And he just said to me, if you want to postpone the wedding, postpone it. But I put the phone down and my mum, he started crying. And she said, oh, but we've sent all the invitations out. What are people going to say? And then you start to feel it's your fault because you asked the question. And when actually, looking with hindsight, really, I should have told them all to go do one because it was just terribly manipulating. He's in prison. Well, I don't think he's out now, but he's been in and out of it because hitting his second wife and the children. So yeah, I got married to him within, well, put it this way, when you get that realization dawn that you are now stuck in something that you're never going to get out of. It's like, it's like being in a tiny little prison, like in a tanning cubicle and you're never going to get out of it. So he was very twisted. He knew how to play everybody. When everyone leaves the room and then he looks at you like, you shouldn't have done that kind of thing. He's complained that there wasn't enough blood on the sheets after our wedding night.
Oh my God.
That there wasn't enough, like, what do you want to do? Like, cut my arm up and spray around the room kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. I'm like, well, how much do you need,
Yeah.
I was just so humiliating. And then he would just get more and more aggressive and nastier, and I just didn't know how to deal the amount of the narcissism. I just, you know when you know there's something not right, and so then I think it was me, because I was always told that it must be me, you know. You've got to try and do better, be better, Jehovah, and all this. And that's when it all started to go wrong, yeah. And I just suddenly felt that, where have you gone, Jehovah, you know? Because it became, he would take the phone with him to work. It was one of those phones that you pull it out the wall, the plug, and he'd take it with him to work, so I couldn't tell anybody what was going on up there. And so and it became just constant eggshells, whether you're constant hyper-vigilant. Where nobody believed me for ages. They wanted to hide it under the carpet a bit, you know, well, because it wasn't in my character to be like that. I just went reduced apparently to, you know, I'd lost my spirit, if you'd like. And I actually begged God to take me so that I wouldn't have to take any more of it. Anyway, with a lot of resistance, and it was advised that I could not divorce this person because, you know, you're married in the faith, and, you know, it's until someone dies, there's no divorce, no nothing, you're stuck with it. Anyway, there was a sister, we call them brothers and sisters inside the congregation, so that I would still refer to her that way, because it was like that. And she was staying with us. She came to stay with me. And we locked ourselves in the bedroom, my bedroom, because we thought we were going to die. He went absolutely mad. We can hear him smashing the place up, and he said he was going to kill me. And so she's scared. We both locked in the bedroom. We thought, that's it, we're going to die.
Was that the first person that saw this?
And then that's
other
when
side?
Action was taken, because they'd seen now that, you know. But so now I'm a separated woman. I'm separated, but as far as they're concerned, I'm still fully married, and I should behave like a married woman.
Sure.
Yeah, which I did, absolutely. To me, that was. I just thought, right, I'm going to leave it to God then. We'll leave it to God. And so my Saturday night wouldn't be like everybody else going out, because I'd never been out. I'd never done anything like that. My Saturday night was reading the Watchtower and the Awake out on my balcony on a Saturday night, preparing for the meeting on Sunday. And I'm 22 years old. I don't even know nothing else, yeah? And so I'm sitting on this balcony in Cyprus, and there's this car going up and down, and then it stopped. And I thought, well, this person's lost. And, you know, they wound down the window, and I said, oh, you know, popped over the balcony, sorry, are you lost? And he said, no, I've been driving up and down because I've been wanting to talk to you, and I just needed to find the guts to talk to you. I see here you're always sitting outside reading. And I wanted to ask you on a date, and I said, no, I don't think so. That's really highly inappropriate, blah, blah, blah. I'm a married woman, giving it all of this. And then I think eventually did it a few more times. And do you know what? It was the first time anybody had shown me any attention for a long time. When I say any attention, I mean, like, I wasn't going to get it in. I'm even meaning any tenderness. Because now being a single woman again, where you are viewed as a married woman, you are now looked at a little bit as, yeah, we've got to watch that one because she used to be married.
Sure.
She's not now. You know what they say about a woman all on her own. Oh, I'd hear this all the time. You know what happens to women when they're all on their own. Like it's like going back to Dangerous Liaisons movie, or, you know, I don't know if you've ever watched that film Age of Innocence, when So where that you're then put under a microscope. Everything you do to the hemline of your dress is watched. How high, how low your cleavage is. They go in all microscope. Yeah. Where you feel like you're being, and then where you go, what you do, who you sit with, what conversations you had. Because, and I know that I would have been the same had it been on someone else.
Sure.
I would have been looking at her like that. So I know how they would have been looking at me. Yeah. At the time. That's how, so then they don't hang out with you so much because you're looked at as, I'm not a really good example role model because I used to be, but you know, he was like that, and I'm on my own now, so it's got to be all my fault. And so you do become very isolated, and it's very depressing.
Yeah.
And I was missing any support. I honestly felt, is this what it's going to be like the next 40, 50 years? Because I just want to die. I don't even believe him. I don't think this is paradise for me. And if I've got to live forever with that man, I'd rather never live forever. That's not paradise to me. So anyway, yeah, I ended up going on this date. And obviously he said the things that you would say to a 10-year-old and they wouldn't believe it. But nobody had ever told me those things before. Like, he told me, oh, my eyes are really pretty. And I thought anybody else now who got that would be like, yeah, right. But I'd never even heard that. I thought, wow, this is like out of a book for me. You know, this is true love. And I sacrificed everything to get a taste of what love could be.
Yeah.
Because love could be different things to different people. And that is how I got thrown out. When I got thrown out, I lost my home. I lost my job because I was working for people in the religion.
Sorry, so did they catch you that you were dating another man, or you just told them?
They didn't catch me for 3 months. I played a double life, and it was. There's nothing worse than leading a double life. It tears you into because so in love with this person that was against everything in my heart and everything that it's like I knew it was going to end badly, but it was the only
Hope.
It was the only drop of love that I was getting at the time. And when I say a drop of love, I wasn't feeling it from anybody else. In fact, you know, so you are going to go where you're receiving it, if you like, where you're getting that energy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if everybody else is looking at you like you're a piece of shit, then you're going to go there.
So it's almost like the way you describe it, it's like you're surviving as well.
Yeah, that's so sad, isn't it? So sad. I actually did feel that when that ended, I was suicidal mission for about 2 years because it wasn't enough. I'd got caught now. I mean, I felt bad enough that God was watching me, what I was doing. Yeah, that I was living a double life and God's going to kill me and God's going to... And I kept thinking about So it wasn't just that what other people felt. It was my whole self that I'm going to die for feeling this good right now. God is going to destroy me just because I'm feeling this happy just for this few minutes, you know. So I was called hyper vigilant for about 2 years because I was expecting God's kingdom to come at any moment, and I'm going to get destroyed now. Where I thought God's paradise coming, yeah. Now I'm thinking I'm going to at any moment it's going to come, and I'm going to die. For those who really believe in it, that's how they feel. I didn't pay national insurance for years because I really believed that it's coming at any moment. And if you really believe it's coming at any moment, you're not going to pay for a pension, are you?
No, yeah, for sure.
That was how in it I was. I would spend all my hobby time preaching. And then I'd gone from that to finding something that, you know, from that to hell to finding something that was a bit loving.
So exiting, so sort of like how it sort of ended and sort of so to speak, you sort of leave
That's
the
right.
community, and leaving the community, you've lost a job.
So you've lost your job,
How do
lost
you
your
build?
friends.
Where do you build
There's
from?
nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You don't know anybody else. It's like you've been dropped in a city.
Yeah.
You don't know anyone except for people that you preach to. You don't know anyone. Everyone else, you do not exist. They're not going to answer your phone calls. They're not going to answer your texts. They drop you, and that is it. There is nowhere to go. So you're homeless. You're jobless
Are you still with that man at that moment, at that time?
for a little while.
As in with
And then
the
he couldn't
with the,
take it. He couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't take the destruction of. Well, he just wanted to have a good time, you know. He wasn't up for all this, you know.
Yeah.
He was, you know, and also because of the religious factor where he was Greek Orthodox, his family weren't too happy about all this.
Sure.
you
so
know.
sorry, I meant the man that you met on a street.
Yeah.
Was he
yeah.
still
Yeah, no,
with
that
you?
was-
Yeah, but then he just couldn't take it.
Okay, sorry,
The I don't blame him, you know. I mean, now he was 23. He's thinking, I'm supposed to be having the time of my life. I don't need this, you know. He saw how my family treated me, and do you know what? It did affect my relationships after massively, because also I don't have the knowledge that I have now, and how where I felt so guilty and it was my fault. And I do observe to be abused and beaten and everything else. There's all this stuff that you take with you. And so in relationships after that, I let them abuse me. I let them beat me. I let them do whatever they want because I felt I deserved it. It must be all my fault. And, you know. Then you'll meet someone else and he's a little bit nicer. So you think, oh, wow. But it's only because it's just a little bit nicer than the last one. Until you realise that actually I should have grown up and been told to be I'm a strong, independent girl, that I don't need to rely on other person or a marriage to be happy. I shouldn't rely on another person to be happy. That's really cruel to put that responsibility on somebody else. You need to rely on your own happiness before you start bunging it on somebody else, you know.
Totally agree. How did you start to cultivate a sense of self-confidence and self-worth for yourself, like after all of that, when so much of it's dependent on God and your support system? And being a Jehovah, I can imagine it takes so much work to start to have more of a self-assurance and go, do you know what, I am who I am, and that's okay. And I you know, having love for yourself even in those dark moments is
I
really
did your
tough.
typical thing that a lot of us do when we leave.
Yeah.
Some come out and they're okay because they're very strong-minded. Some come out, they don't. I know people who've died.
Yeah.
They actually committed suicide. They just couldn't cope with the pain, the mental pain.
Sure.
And then there's a lot who are like me who came out and then decided I just did everything that I was not allowed to do.
Okay.
Because I thought, well, I could die at any minute.
Yeah.
Drugs and rock and roll, baby, you know. And I thought, well, and I needed that escapism.
Yeah.
And, you know, I needed that escape because then I didn't have to think about it.
Mm.
I didn't have to think about it. And it took, do you know what? It took years. Years. I went to Tony Robbins in 2001.
No way.
And I came out of Tony Robbins. That was in Wembley, 2001. And I came out of there thinking, hang on a minute, I can get a really good job. I could do this. I could do that. I don't need to rely on. And then, you know, slowly, but it did take years and trying different therapy. There was a really good guy, and I'd like to just give his name because he's helped a lot of people with religion, especially. And he said to me a few years ago, his name's Rodney Goodall, and he's in America. He said he was also brought up this way, and he said when I first spoke to him, he said, "Can you stop defining yourself as a disfellowshipped person? Because it means that you're actually subconsciously still one,
Yeah.
still in the group, you're still in the club. Don't define yourself like that." And I thought, wow, it's absolutely right. As soon as I stopped doing it, I'm not that label now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like defining yourself for who you are and your own values. And
Yeah. So let's say, for example, you've got somebody who's Hindu or Muslim, and they say, well, I'm an ex-Muslim, I'm an ex-Hindu, I'm an ex-this. Then all you're going to be thinking about is like saying, don't think of the colour blue. So all you're going to think about that is when you define them. Instead of meeting them as a person and their essence and who they are without making some sort of pre-defined thing about them.
Did that sort of come after? So after Tony Robbins and sort of finding out about this guy, you started to sort of build on your own.
Oh, it was quite, so I did have a breakdown. I'm not going to lie. So by that time, I had a really good job. I'd built up a business, and I was doing great. And then in the lockdown, obviously isolation wasn't good for anybody.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to work because I was offering. I was doing like a wellbeing program for old dears at different care homes. I had about 10 care homes in Hampshire by now that I know every single resident, you know, on a personal basis. And now I've lost them, and a lot of them died. So it wasn't a happy time for anybody, I don't think, really, was it?
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, and also I think what triggered me right off was watching The Handmaid's Tale. I watched The Handmaid's Tale, and it triggered me right off. I barricaded myself in the house. I woke up naked in the bathroom with a knife in my hand, and I thought, shit, I think I need help.
Yeah.
So then I went and I signed up for some help, and I experimented with lots of things. But what helped me, and here we go, what it is, what helped me was microdosing.
Yeah, no way.
I'd been on antidepressants for about 20 years. And I started microdosing. It changed my life.
Yeah.
Just woke up one day, and I was so happy. I was thinking, I was so happy all these things had happened to me. So I was thinking, wow, what a roller coaster. My life's been amazing.
Yeah.
I've travelled the world. I've done this, that, and the other. I would never have done any of those things had I stayed in it. And then I realised that all those things had to happen for me to grow. And I did a meditation with a friend of mine. He's from India. And we did this meditation where you go and you relax and everything. And we talked about, right, we're going to go back to when we were children and how our parents, and we're going to forgive them for how hard it was. And we're going to forgive them for not forgiving us because they didn't know. And then we're going to go back to when they were children. We're going to bring their parents in because of the generational trauma that they would have felt from their parents. And then we're going to bring their parents in from the generational trauma. And this was the side. And they were just all sitting there crying and so happy. And I've actually apologised to my son in advance. If there's anything that comes up later, if you remember when I pulled your ear when you were 5 years old or something, I'm so sorry. Yeah. It's all right, Mum, don't worry about it.
Just out of interest and curiosity, what was it that you were microdosing at that time?
Oh, so I was microdosing psilocybin,
Okay.
which is a mushroom. All mushrooms have benefits. Like you can, turkey tail mushroom, for example. Lion's mane mushroom, brilliant for dementia.
Yeah.
And that is some of the research that I'm doing now at university is for cognitive functions, brain function. So I really
which university are you doing that research?
I'm at Arden University down the road.
Oh, because we try to. Sorry, it's a bit off topic.
No, please do.
We tried to get a person who's from Royal Imperial College, and he's doing PhD on psilocybin. So we tried to get him on a podcast, and we still do. So I thought maybe it's just somehow related.
No, not with me. Across the road from me is dementia.org, though. And I've actually got an appointment with Alzheimer's training because I'm actually writing a manual guide at the moment for families and for service providers.
That's
people
amazing.
who work with people with dementia.
Yeah.
Because it's
That's
something. Since the lockdown, we saw an influx of people with dementia as young as 35, and that's because of trauma, isolation, and alcohol. Alcohol is actually the second biggest thing that contributes to dementia.
It's insane.
So by making this more awareness, hopefully we can minimize generate this trauma later on in the future.
Did you find it sort of it allowed you just to open up and start to come to terms with
the
things
psilocybin?
How was it quite immediate, or did you find it was quite a gradual process going through?
It was an awakening.
Yeah.
The gradual process was having to accept that no one is perfect, and my religion wasn't perfect. It is perfect if everything would be perfect if people were perfect, but people are not. And it was accepting that they're not perfect, but nor am I. And so the way I would explain it to them now would be that they say that it's going to take 1,000 years to become perfect in God's eyes. It's going to still take me I'm still going to take me another 1,000 years too, just like it is you. So we're all really on the same page, aren't we?
Sure. If I could cast your mind back to the Esther that was running down the road in an Alfred Hitchcock film, what advice would you give to yourself of everything that you know now?
Well, I asked God to show me everything, and so He did it in a way that where He did show me everything, and it's that doesn't mean it's always going to be a pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
I would have said to myself to be kinder to myself, and everything's going to be okay. Be kinder to yourself. Don't listen to people's points of view. Don't take on. You can listen to people's point of view, but don't feel that is law to you, because remember, it's just a point of view.
What would you say is your relationship with God at this moment?
At this moment, for a while, when all this happened, and then there was this realization of that nobody's perfect and that there's pedophiles in every religion and this kind of thing, then I might have lost. For a moment, I thought, hang on, maybe this all isn't real. There is really nothing. So then I started looking at science and things like geometry and mathematics, and it all comes back to a source, doesn't it? It all comes back to a source. So whether you want to call it God, you want to call it Jehovah, Allah, you want to call it the universe, there is a something. And I'd like to feel that I'm living my life like there is a something rather than there is a nothing, because I think it might make me a bit of a nicer person. And also to make me feel like you can... I think that's the whole thing with Jesus, whether he existed or not. It just shows a person who's actually trying to be a nicer person, and to encourage that. It's just add value to other people.
That's amazing.
Esther,
thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, do you know what? Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for giving us some extra time.
Appreciate
to the rest of the team.
Honestly, you've been amazing.
We'll have to do a part 2.
We will do a part 2 for sure.
We'll do.
I really want to learn about your well-being retreats and law attraction stuff that you teach. Yeah. So
I do like to do the science behind the law of attraction.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because people think it's woo-woo and
absolutely, yeah.
And actually, it's actually quite scientific.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'd be really interested.
Yeah.
Again,
let's do a sesh.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
To everyone that's made it this far on the podcast, thank you so much for listening. Just a quick one. Sorry, I know you've got to open the door. Esther, where can people find you if people want to get in touch with you?
Oh, you can just jump on into Instagram.
Okay, cool.
Esther Charalambu.
Perfect.
We'll put everything in the description as well.
You.
Amazing.
Bless you.
Again, big thank you, and we'll see you guys.
Gratitude, darling.
Yeah.
Gratitude. Thank you.
Gratitude.
Thank you so much.